Good evening, fellow Plexers. Today's video is going out to Mayor, a buddy of mine from the Plexaholics Facebook group. He's been working hard on getting a new Unraid server set up to move his Plex server from his Synology NAS to his new build. First build he's ever done, and it's going to be a big, fantastic Unraid server. So he wants to move his Plex server from the Synology NAS running in a Docker container, and it would not matter if it was running as a package on the Synology NAS. Either way it's running is fine, and he wants to move it into Unraid. So what I've done in this test install of Unraid that I have, which only has a single cache drive, a SSD, and a single rusty drive, I've gotten rid of the Docker container I had set up here. And if we go into the rusty storage drive and jump into let's back up. If we go into the cache drive and jump into the app data folder, you see this is my old Plex container application files. And if you've watched any video of mine before where I moved a server from one OS to another, this is the only folder and its contents we have to worry about. So I wasn't sure if I wanted to restore this later on. Probably not, but it's just renamed. So this is the old server's application files, and the actual Docker container has been nuked. And on the Synology NAS, we have Plex running in a container. Let's start up Container Manager. So these services aren't set up. I just did a video where I did all the paths for these containers, but the Plex container is running. It's a valid service, a test server of mine. So what we're going to do is we're going to just assume you've got your media transplanted from the Synology to the Unraid system, and that your shared media folder is named the same, or that it's the same structure if the shared media folder is named differently. So if you look in here, this is my standard public domain naming setup. I use the same structure for all my test servers. This shared media folder could be called Media Plex. It could be called anything. It could be called My Media, as long as what's inside it is all the same structure. So if I go back to Unraid, and let's make that full screen, and I go into the data drive this time, I actually have two different shared folders. One named Media, which just has two libraries in it, or two library sort folders, and Media PD that has everything the Synology NAS has. So I'll actually be pointing to the same physical structure on the Unraid, just in a different shared folder name, to show you how that's kind of easy to manage too. So none of it starts with either Synology DSM or Unraid. It all starts in the Plex web app. And this is just app.plex.tv. And I'm into the settings, and you see my regular server and the test servers. So we are going to be dealing with the DS1019 Plus -Rust -Docker server. So it all starts with the library heading under the settings section. You want to turn off Scan My Library automatically, turn off Run a Partial Scan when changes are detected. If you have this checked to include music libraries, uncheck that. And if you have Scan My Library periodically, uncheck that. And uncheck Empty Trash automatically after every scan. So then slide down and save the changes. Now my recommendation is to also go into troubleshooting optimize the database. This might take a while if you don't do it by routine, and clean the bundles, and that could take a while also. Now, if you're not doing those as part of a scheduled task, I check everything except for update all libraries during maintenance. And I run, I think on my server, I run from 1 a.m. until 8 a.m. I think these were the default options. So you drop down and save changes, and let's see what I actually run on my server. I can call myself a liar. Yes, 1 a.m. to 8 a.m. So now we're basically done with the prep for this. So I can minimize the web app. I can go back to Synology NAS. I threw this against the side of the monitor. Let me just resize this so I don't have to keep throwing it. So, before we stop Plex, I'm going to show you that it doesn't matter whether Plex is running on the Synology NAS as a package install or as a Docker container install. If you happen to be running Plex as a package, when you create it on a Synology NAS that's running DSM-7 or newer, that install will create a shared folder called Plex Media Server, no spaces. If you click into it, you'll see an app data folder, and then you'll see Plex space media space server. This is what you'd want to work with. So I'm going to move the Docker container. And if we look in the Docker shared folder, I created a Plex folder, and then the install created a library subfolder, and then an application support folder, and then the same Plex space media space server. So we can't do anything yet until we stop the container. Now, I installed this Plex server with Portainer. I could go to Portainer to stop it, but I can just use Container Manager. So I'll go into that, click Container, click Plex, and just click Stop. So if we go back to the web app, we're going to lose this server here. Let me refresh, and it's stopped. I've got the red triangle. So if I go back to the container tab, you see it's stopped. So it's a quick prep. You turn off the automatic scanning, you turn off the emptying of the trash, you turn off any timed scheduled scans, and then you clean bundles and optimize the database. So now that you've done that, you can go to File Station and go to the structure you need to go to, whether it's in a Docker container or as a package. We'll do the Docker container move. So I'll click into it. Now you need to see Plex Media Server in the right pane. It's not going to help you if you see it in the left pane. So you want to be at the application support in the left pane, so you see the Plex Media Server in the right. You can see I've got a zip file already for when I move this same server to a Ugreen NAS. Let me get rid of that. So I'm just going to right click on that folder and compress to Plex Media Server zip. I'll add to archive. I'll call the archive Plex to Unraid. I'll leave everything default and just click OK. Now this is a small test server, so this won't take too long. If you're moving a Plex server that's large, do this before you go to bed and let it compress overnight. But we're almost halfway done. It won't take that long. Now, Mayor already has a connection back to his Synology NAS through Unraid, and that's something we'll have to show in the next step. But most likely, if you're ready to move the server, you've already done that. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to right-click and cut. And then I'm going to go to my shared media folder and just right click and paste it with the overwrite option, just so it's someplace I can have access. All right, so Plex is stopped, it's backed up, it's on the Synology NAS. Now we need to get it into Unraid. So if I go to the main tab, I'm going to use the unassigned devices option to mount my Synology NAS, and I already have a mount there. So basically, if I remember right, it's add remote SMB NFS share. You click on the Windows icon, click next. I don't think search for servers works. So I think normally you'd put the IP address in, but this is working. So well, no, I don't think that is what you want to do. Let me back up. I think I've always done the direct IP 119 oh, that's not right. 192.168.168.116. That's my older Synology NAS. Then I'll hit next. Then you do your username and password. So let me pause you while I do that, and I'll come right back. Okay, if I've typed the password correctly, I would hit next. Just skip domain by doing next. Now I'll load the shares. Here are my shared folders from the Synology NAS. And I would do media, but you see I already have it here. So if you saved the Zipoplex in the shared Docker folder, you could point to this. But if you're already moving your media, or you need to know how to move your media from Synology to Unraid, just do your shared media folder as the one you're creating, and then move the zip file to it. But I'll do Docker just for the heck of it, and I'll hit done. All right, so neither one of these are mounted, but I'll mount the media one. And I can mount the Docker one too. So now I have access to everything on the Synology NAS from Unraid. So let me just go back to main, and we want to move the zip onto the cache drive or the cache pool. We want to move it, click the wrong thing. We want to move it here. So I can do it from the unassigned devices. So let me go into media on the Synology NAS. Here's this. I'm going to right click and copy it. And now I can click into the cache, app data, and I'm just going to copy it to that level. Now by zipping it, there's no mistakes. It's just one file being moved across the network. Now with a large Plex server, it'll take a little bit longer than my little test server. So I can go back into main, go into the cache drive, go into app data folder, and here's my zip file. That's all we need. And that's how you'd copy your media over also. So let's back up to main. Let's go into the shared media folder on the Synology NAS. And now I can't copy the shared folder, but I can copy the contents. So you literally would just select these, and you could move or copy. So let me right click on this. It's safer to copy because you still have all your data intact on the old Synology NAS. So copy, and I would go to disk 1, and I would already have had a shared media folder created to then copy those subfolders into. It's just really not that hard once you kind of look at everything. Okay, so we're set up to install the Docker container. Now I use the Linux server image always, so that's what's on the Synology NAS, so that's what I'll use here. So, oh, and a lot depends too. Let me go back to the Synology NAS. No, I need to go to Portainer first to talk about this. All right, that's on my other monitor, and now I'm signed in. So let me click the Docker icon, and I'll go into stacks. I'll click the Plex stack, and I'll click Edit. So a lot of Docker instructions for Plex has you create a path to a shared folder for movies, and then another path to a shared folder for TV shows, and then another shared folder for music. That's an inefficient setup, and if you ever graduate to a trash guide setup, having multiple shared folders for media will block you from achieving those beautiful, fast, and efficient and instant atomic moves. So, if you're currently on your Synology NAS with multiple shared folders, move them into one shared folder. All you're going to do, as long as everything below the multiple shared folders going to the one shared folder, as long as you don't change what's below that from the Synology and the move to the Unraid system, it's just a path adjustment in Plex once we get the new or the transplanted container going. So kudos to you if you're already using one shared media folder like I am on the Synology NAS. And this is my alias. So I'm going to Control-C that, and I've got a little cheat sheet going. So I'm going to just paste my alias in so I remember to use the same alias in Unraid, so it all looks familiar. All right, let's get rid of Portainer. It's not needed. It was just for a demo. All right, so let me install this version of the community applications.
Motion detected.
Okay, so we can search for Plex. So I'm not using binhex. I don't really understand the purpose of a container that has PlexPass already in it. I just claim a server, it's easy. And for some reason, the Linux server is not up high anymore. All right, here it is, Linux servers repository. I'm going to click on action, and I could reinstall it from my previous install. That previous install that I deleted, the information about that is stored on the Unraid flash drive, the boot drive, but I'm going to install it fresh. All right, so the name of the container that's created is going to be Plex. And because I'm using one shared media folder, I don't need a path for TVs and movies, so I'm going to remove the TV path. Excuse me. So I'm going to edit the one for movies because that's going to be for all my media. All right, so I'm going to go to the media PD folder. Right, I can't show that in Unraid without backing up and losing where I am. But I can show that through my local file manager. So this is my shared folders on the Synology NAS. These are my shared folders on this test Unraid. And remember, this media shared folder doesn't have all of my content in it. This media PD too does, and it's named media on the Synology NAS with the same content in it. So you need to know the name of the shared folder that you've created under Unraid, even if it's different from what it would be on the Synology NAS. So I'm going to change this path to media PD 2. And I'm going to go to my cheat sheet because I've forgotten already. Whoops. And I'm going to use this alias because it's the same alias I used for the container under Unraid. And I'm going to just highlight movies, paste that in. Excuse me. I can click into host path and I can go to, I can click on media PD and I see everything below it. So that's, well, let me click that. I see everything below it, so that's just fine. I see all those sort folder libraries. So that looks good. And then you can add a description if you want. I'm just going to say, let it be media goes here. And I think I'll just save it. So now if I edit it, well, let me save it again. I forgot one thing. Switch from basic view to advanced, and then down at the bottom, show more settings. So now if we go back and edit the same path, we have a few more options. Display always, required yes, password mask is no. So everything's fine. I'll just save it one more time. Okay, so now we have the app data path, and depending on how you set the Docker up and the parameters you use there, you may have to change this away from user to cache. Now I just did a video on installing Unraid on a Ugreen NAS without overwriting the Ugreen operating system. And in that video, I showed you how to set it up so that every time you add a container, you don't have to change this from what it was to cache. So Unraid is going to have the right PUID and PGID numbers and the UMask number. So I think the only thing left for us to do is to fill in the extra parameters line. And I will paste this into the description of the video. Now this is for an Intel iGPU only. This line enables hardware accelerated transcoding to the container. This line uses 16 gigabytes of the total RAM for a RAM drive. And when you set up transcoding in Plex, you have to have this be the location. And then this is just a no-healthcheck line. So this test Unraid install has 32 gigs of RAM, so half of it's fine. I think this works best when it's got 12 to 16 gigabytes of RAM. I don't think it needs any more. So if you happen to have 64 gigabytes of RAM in this Unraid system, 16's way more than you need for Plex. It's a safe amount. So I'm just going to highlight all of this, right click and copy it, and again, that will be in the description of the video. So in the extra parameters field, not the additional requirements, I'm going to paste that, and I think I'm good. Just checking it over. So the path for the data goes to the Rusty array, which is why it says user. And the path for the container creation is on the cache pool. That's why it says cache. So I'm going to apply, and we'll see if it creates properly or if we have problems with it. So far, so good. the command failed. Alright, error request from Damon Poll, access denied for my Plex media. Alright, let me pause the video and I'll figure out what I did wrong and how I misled you. I'll be back. Alright, I'm back. I haven't figured out what I did wrong yet so far, but while I'm at this stage, go into your settings, click Docker, stop it, go down, apply, and if you have a 500 gigabyte cache pool or a 1 terabyte or a 2 terabyte, you can bump the Docker vdisk size up. The larger this is, the less room you'll have for VMs, but I don't really think a Plex server running under Unraid should be in a VM. So unless you're running a VM for other things, but 30 gigabytes is a small part of a 500 gigabyte or a 1 terabyte drive. So maybe make this 100 or 150 gigabytes. So now I'm going to enable Docker again and apply. I kind of should have shown the before besides just going to the after, but if I click into the main, now under the cache, this is going to increase in size. Let me go back to Docker. Let me stop it one more time. My mistake. This isn't even set up right. Default app data storage location. This should be cache. So this test Unraid was buggy to start with. Okay, so now if we go to main, the pool device, something's not making sense to me, but maybe it's not supposed to. All right, so this change creates the Docker container on the cache pool. I think this is going to put the vdisk on the cache pool too. I think that's right now. So now let's save. All right, yes, so now I've increased the storage space used on the cache pool. Okay, I've got it right now. All right, let's go back to apps and search for Plex again and see what I may have done wrong. See if I can just spot it. All right, we're back to the bin hex container. I'm sorry, the Linux server container. Let me reinstall from previous apps because that'll give me a clue of maybe what's different that I missed the last time. So we're going to show more and advanced view. All right, so extra parameters. Oh, maybe that's what I did wrong. I don't know now. All right, let me go back and grab the extra parameters line. Control C. Name of the Plex container is going to be Plex. Should be able to click into that, so that's correct. Should be able to click into this. Oh, so the container is not created. That's why I'm not seeing anything. That folder is not created. Okay, so what are we lacking? We're lacking a path to the... Well, we do have the path to the media. And the container path matches what it was under the Synology NAS. All right, I'm not seeing where I messed up. Let's save this now and apply and see if we're successful this time. The issue may have been because I didn't have Docker set up correctly, and I think that was the issue. All right, so we're done. We have a container running. So if I go to Docker, we have a Plex container. I'm going to stop it, but first let's go to the cache drive and into the app data folder. So here's the old container I had running, and here's the new container. And we're going to go down to this level and delete this and unzip our zip file there. So let's go back to Docker. We're going to click the icon for Plex and just hit stop. So now we'll go back to main, and I'll click into the cache drive again, into the app data folder. Now I'm going to right click and choose move. And I can click into cache, click into app data, click into Plex, the new container structure, library, application support, and right there I'm going to start. So now if I browse into this folder, into the library, into application support, I see the zip and I see the new container path. So I'm going to, or the new container folder, I'm going to I'm sorry, I'm not saying that right, the new application folder that we don't need. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to, all right, see, how do I unzip on Unraid? I could do this easily on a Ugreen NAS. Maybe I need an application. Let's install Zip Manager and see if that's the answer. So now you could easily browse into it with your computer's browser if you set the shares up correctly. Let's back this up. Oh, I'm not sharing the app data folder on the cache drive. I'm only sharing the rusty stuff, so I can't access that with my local file manager. So let's go back to main and let's go into the cache pool, into the app data folder. I went too far. Into the Plex folder, library, application support. That's a bummer. All right, I have to figure that out. I'll be right back. All right, luckily I found a solution, and I've been trying to rack my brain. I'll have to watch my original Unraid playlist where I moved my Synology Docker container of Plex to my Unraid setup, which is a Docker host only setup. That was Unraid 6 something, and I wonder if the Dynamics file manager that I had to install on the side handled zip files, and now that's built into Unraid with Unraid 7, and maybe it doesn't handle zip files. That's just a long shot, but I found a way to fix it. So, go to Apps, search for Crusader. I'm using this plain one, not the bin hex one. Actions, I'm going to install it fresh. I just installed this. Drop down, and the container path is fine. The data path, change it from mount user to mount cache. Then drop down and hit apply, and let that container build and run. The silence is deafening. Okay, it finished. Click done. Click Docker. Now we've got a stop Plex container and the Crusader. So let me go back to main. I'll go into the cache drive again, which will be a cache pool for Mayor, into the app data, and now you see I have that old Plex folder structure, the one we created, and Crusader. If I go in here, library, application support, this is the level I need to unzip to. So we go back to Docker. I'll click on the Crusader icon. I'll click Web UI. I'll click through this. I'll click through that and through this and close that. So I'm going to hit the up arrow here. Nope, I'm going to click user, double click it, double click app data, double click this folder structure Plex, library, double click application support, and now this is the zip file. So I'm going to double click that, and this is what I need. So over on the right, I'm going to click user, app data, Plex, library, application support, and I'm just going to drag this over and copy here. So this may take a while if you've got a huge server. Didn't take this that long. Now I can close that web page down, and if I go back to main, into cache, well, I hit the wrong option, into cache there, into app data, into Plex, library, application support, I went too far. Now I have the unzipped Plex media server folder and all its subfolders. So hopefully you copied this from the Synology NAS and didn't move it, so you still have it on the Syno NAS if you need to try again. If it's your only copy, move it someplace safe, but right now I'm going to delete it. Okay, so the transplanted Plex server is there. We'll go back to Docker and we'll simply start it. Okay, so now you need to know the local IP address of your Unraid server, and you should probably go into the settings of your router and reserve its IP address. You don't have to bother setting a static IP in the Unraid OS. Just reserve it in the settings of your router. It won't change. And let's see what's next. We're going to start up Plex servers. So go back to my cheat sheet. type your local IP address of the Unraid server. Then it's colon 32400 for Plex's internal port /web. So I'm just going to copy that. And I'll get back to a regular web browser and paste that in, and we'll see what happens. My credentials have expired. Please log in again. I'll sign in with my regular Plex account. And I'll click the gear icon. And you see we have the DS1019 Plus Rust Docker server running. So if I go into libraries, I'll have to adjust the path for every library. So we'll start with movies. I'll click Edit Library. I'll click on Add Folder. And here's the old path, Plex Media Movie Libraries main, movie main. Now, hopefully I'll see this again. So if I browse for media, my Plex Media right here, it's the same path. So I'm going to delete that, browse, click this, click my movie library sort folder, click the movie-main library folder structure. I see the movies there, I'll click add. I'll save changes, and now Plex is going to rescan everything. And we know this is the old server because of its name. Plus, I didn't mention it, I created a collection with a few movies called Moving to Unraid. All right, so let's back up and fix the remaining libraries. The 4K movie library. Edit library, add folders, get rid of the old path, click Browse for Media, click the alias. And actually, I said earlier to use the same alias. You don't have to, you're just used to seeing that if you've got a container running on the Synology NAS. All right, the movie library sort folder, the 4K library structure, click Add, save changes. We'll do this movie library, folders, get rid of that, browse, the alias, my sort folder, and my library structure. Save. We'll do the kids library, get rid of the path, the original one, alias, my sort folder for movies, and the kids folder structure. Save. So now the TV show library, the main one. Add folder, get rid of the original path, the alias I'm using, the TV library sort folder, the main TV show library structure. Save changes. We'll do this kids TV show library. Ditch the original path. And the music library last. Ditch the original path, browse for the new path. Save changes. So now I can go back into settings library and I can set up the automatic scanning and the partial scanning, and I can include the music libraries, but heed this warning. By default, any Linux system for Plex can only keep track of 8,192 folders. So a music library can tip the scales to be over that limit, and then the automatic scanning will go haywire with Plex. It'll hang at detecting intros and credits. You'll have to stop the container, restart it. Chuck PA at Plex's forum has an intricate way to calculate what a new number should be, but he also explains why you shouldn't arbitrarily set it too high. So I've just found once you cross that limit, uncheck all this. especially if you're running fast hardware. Scan your library periodically and do it every 2 hours. You can scan manually if you want to. So then also enable empty trash automatically, drop down and save. Now we'll go into our transcoder settings. I'm going to drop, where am I going to go? We need to be here, and remember the cheat sheet with the parameters. This is all we need, /TMP. I'm going to copy that. Paste that here. I'll drop down. I'll save the changes. I want to always see my iGPU, so I'll click into Auto, click on the iGPU, save changes, and you see that we have these two hardware accelerated options checked. I'm going to change this experimental option to always. Save changes again, which causes this last option to pop up, which I'll check, and save changes. So now we've just moved the Plex server, and if you've recreated the same folder structure on the Synology NAS with one shared media folder to the Unraid NAS with one shared media folder, you're golden. But again, you can play with the structure. So let's get my file manager in here as the last thing. So if I had a flat structure where all these individual movie libraries were at this level with all the individual TV show libraries, you can actually move to a nested structure like I'm using with these sort folders for movie libraries, sort folders for TV show libraries, because all that matters is that this structure doesn't change. The actual library folder structure, that needs to be the same on both the Synology NAS and the new Unraid NAS. Where this is placed, whether it's under a flat moving to a nested or it's under a nested moving to a flat structure, none of it matters, because, let me refresh that. None of it matters because when you adjust your path, none of this matters. All that matters is you end up at the same actual library folder. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, Mayor, let me know if you have any problems when you go to move your server. And sorry, I had to work through a couple issues myself. I set this test Unraid server up a while ago, and obviously I didn't do it correctly, and you saw me make the corrections in the video. If you watch my installing Unraid on a Ugreen NAS, that's more fluid. It shows you how to get the Docker set up properly on the cache pool and adjust the VDEV size of the Docker image. All right, thanks for watching, and happy Plexing.